I'll ask a personal question. Did you test to exit?
No, I didn't, because I'd run out of rat tests.
So you're probably still raging positive, by the way.
Yeah, I figured as much.
Isn't it either 24 hours after symptoms have gone or you're testing negative? Are those the two exit the rules?
Or you can just take a test and be sure that you're not going to infect anyone. It's quite easy.
But can't you also be testing positive for weeks and weeks afterwards because there's something in your system?
Yeah, it's called COVID. Sorry, I'm being facetious. No, so it's quite confusing. But if you systematically do it like a scientist does, and you start taking tests because you don't want to infect anyone, you'll find that most people test positive up to about day 10, and there's strong correlation in the literature that a positive rat, you're likely infectious. Like, the blurred lines become a bit more along, like sort of people who have symptoms that keep persisting, or like you're not really that well, and so you can, like, people can test positive weekly for longer, and so there is an absolute grey area. But if you're someone who goes through a sort of a standard get sick, get symptoms, your symptoms kind of recover, then you're best to test, because you will test negative and then you can bail out of your isolation. But most people who have done this and tracked it are absolutely raging positive on day 7, like not a week positive, absolutely positive. And that's going to correlate to being infectious. And we've also seen, like, if you correlate that to a saliva test, for example, your saliva is a better indicator of being infectious, and they absolutely, you're still likely infectious. So it's just been madness that there was no update in, sort of being able to test exit. Sure, it would create problems for people that don't ever test negative, but I think you can start to use your judgment versus the other way around, where you will be going back into a workplace, no one bothers masking, and you might infect someone.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, as far as what I've been doing, I take public transport, so I've been masked up the whole time and wearing masks with customers and stuff like that. But even Dan, I was just looking at the text I got this morning. Your COVID isolation period has ended. If you feel well enough, you can return to your normal daily activities, including work. Yeah. So I mean, I was absolutely knocked on my ass for 3-4 days. Just felt vile. Yeah. And as someone that doesn't often get sick, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is the real thing. But then ultimately at the moment I feel fine. I am back to normal. Yep. So yeah, hopefully a little bit of caution. But yeah, I would have tested to go back to work if we had the rats, but with both me and my partner down, we chewed through those pretty quickly.
Exactly. And because the other thing is you may well have been negative. It's just that a vast majority of people are not, because, like, you can have that delay when you start to turn positive, and then that delay comes out the other end as well. It's very, very common. Like, we've seen it. Anyone who tracks themselves will see that they're categorically not negative at day 7, apart from if you clear it quickly. So, I mean, and, if you're cautious about it, sure, but why do you think we have it circulating? We have it circulating because people are out there spreading it, right? So yeah, I mean, we've been banging on about this for a while, that test to exit should be the policy, because then anyone who's not infectious is back to work faster. It just makes sense, but without a readily available rats, because they're not that readily available, are they? It's hard, especially when you're locked up. It's like, who's going to go get them for you and all the rest of it?
So I like to understand really clearly what I should do in a situation. What I hear you saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that for the most, if you're testing positive, even if it was on day 7, 8, or 9, you're more than likely still infectious.
Yeah.
Because that's not the advice from government, correct?
No. Don't test because you might find out you're positive and therefore you can't go back to work, is the advice.
The advice from government is either 24. So in other words, if you have symptoms on day 7, day 8, you should still isolate, but it's 24 hours after symptoms you have no symptoms, or testing negative. So actually, that's not good advice if you're, like you're saying, doing it as a scientist, does it?
Yeah, and I think, I mean, it seems to be just kind of straightforward that, you know, if your rat's raging bright, do you really think that is safe? Because everyone has a 7-day rule, and that's the thing. We're not created equal, right? So, of course, if you're symptomatic, you're not going to be up to leaving your house. But as I say, it would have just made sense that we had a test to exit rule, and then anyone who has the long tail and is truly infectious doesn't go out and infect other people, and vice versa. Some people clear it real quick, and therefore they're not in isolation. So, but it is what it is. COVID's over, remember. So, that mysterious thing that's circulating that's not COVID, yeah.